So I've now meditated about an hour a day, every day for the last 9 months. And today I want to run through what I think are the 5 biggest physiological, cognitive, and psychological changes that I've seen within myself by putting in the time and doing the work. So one of the biggest changes that I've seen is an improvement to my metacognition. Now, metacognition is the ability to be aware of and control of your thoughts. And I would look at metacognition as a skill that you can improve over time. And I say that the average person has zero metacognition, right? The average person just reacts to their environment and just goes with whatever thought pops into their mind. But this skill is actually critical for you to develop in order for you to meditate in the first place. And I'd argue that there is no better training ground for your metacognition than a deep state of meditation. In a deep state of meditation, your awareness is not on the three-dimensional world at all. Your awareness at first is going to be on your physical body and then your thoughts. And after you can lift your awareness up away from your physical body, you are in a world of nothing but your thoughts. And the Buddhists call this the monkey mind, right? This is once you first enter into this world of being as alert and awake as you are right now, but of experiencing nothing but your thoughts, you're gonna notice that you have thoughts popping in and out of existence constantly, nonstop. It's very overwhelming. You need to develop the skills to focus your mind on what you want, right? You say, I'm gonna focus my mind on my breath. And when you have a thought that pops into existence about food or about sex or some movie that you saw or anger, you have to develop the ability and the skill to move that thought out of the way and say, no, I'm focusing on my breath. I'm not gonna think about that now, I'm focusing right here on my breath. This is a very real skill that you develop over time by putting in the time of meditation. This skill absolutely carries over into your three-dimensional waking life. You know, one of the biggest realizations I've had over the last 9 months is that inside your own mind, you actually have 2 voices in there. I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out on this. One voice is you. It's the actual free will. It's you inside of your head. The other voice, though, is actually coming from your body, and more specifically, the hormones that your body releases into your bloodstream. These hormones can absolutely induce thoughts into your head, and in fact, they do that non-stop. So let me give you a couple examples of this. If you see a TV commercial for pizza, that is going to trigger your body, your pancreas, to release ghrelin into your bloodstream. That ghrelin is then going to make you hungry and make you think about pizza, right? Let's say you're trying to go on a diet. Suddenly you can't stop thinking about pizza. You have to kind of argue with yourself. No, I'm not gonna eat pizza. I'm not gonna eat pizza. I'm gonna eat healthy, right? You have this other voice in there giving you cravings for other things. You know, I used to have a bit of a drinking problem, right? I would drink every single day for years and years and years. And I remember trying to stop quite often. And I would get into the struggle of me, the free will inside of me saying I don't want to drink, and then these cravings, you know, I'd get this other voice in my head telling me to drink. And I used to start the day saying, I'm not gonna drink today, I'm not gonna drink today, I'm not gonna drink today. I'd put post-it notes on my refrigerator saying no beer, and post-it notes on my door saying do not drink. And I say, I'm not gonna drink today. By the end of the day, I'd be exhausted and stressed out, my back would be hurting me. And there'd be this little voice that emerges in my head saying, come on, man, you had a stressful day, just a couple of beers. You deserve it. You can stop drinking tomorrow. You know, 1 beer is not gonna hurt anything. It's this other voice inside of my head. And that used to really confuse me. Even back then, I could recognize that there's 2 different voices fighting for control over my mind. What I realize now is that that second voice was hormonally driven. That was a craving for dopamine, that voice inside my head, right? It wanted me to drink that beer to get a big dose of dopamine and a whole bunch of other hormones associated with that. That's what addictions are. Another great example of this is, have you ever been really angry, right? You're stressed out at work or you're driving, and then suddenly you snap at your wife or you snap at your child. That is because you have all this adrenaline and cortisol, maybe some testosterone flowing through your bloodstream, right? You're feeling angry and you take it out on your wife or your child or your friend. Like, why did you do that? That's not the free will inside of you making a connection that you should be angry at them. That's all the hormones flowing through your body. And this is a very real thing. These hormones induce thoughts into your mind. So my point being is that with meditation, I am far easier to parse out these 2 voices in my head. and understand which voices are coming from the hormones in my body and which voices are coming from the free will inside of me. And this is has tremendous application in our daily lives. When I suddenly feel the emotion of anger, I am more easily able to say, no, I don't want to feel angry. When I feel lust, or I feel cravings to drink alcohol, or go to McDonald's and eat unhealthy, I can say, no, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I want to feel these positive emotions. I want to focus on this project. This is a very real, tangible skill set that I've absolutely developed over the last 9 months. And I totally accredit this to meditation, right? That is deep state of meditation where you block out the physical world and you experience nothing but your thoughts. And you have to parse out your thoughts. You have to push these thoughts out of your mind. This is the ultimate training ground for metacognition. And this has been one of the biggest effects that I've seen in my physical world, my physical life, as a result of me meditating an hour a day, every day for the last 9 months. Now, the next big change that I've seen in myself is that I swear, I think my memory has significantly increased over the last 9 months. And I know that sounds a little crazy. I feel smarter. I feel like my brain is firing on all circuits there. And I just feel like I can think more clearly than I ever have. And I think my ability to create long-term memories has significantly increased. And I don't really know exactly why, but I feel like that is one of the effects. I am thinking far more clearly now than I think I ever have in the past. You know, if you evaluate the ability to create long-term memories and you ask yourself, is there a least optimal condition for you to create memories and to remember things by? I'd say yes. I think everybody would probably agree, like, yes. If you're under a lot of stress, that is not the optimal condition to remember anything. So if you move along the spectrum a little bit, let's say you're not physically exerting yourself, you're in a relaxed state, but you're still under a lot of stress, that's probably not the optimal condition. And let's say you're in a complete state of relaxation and you're not under any stress whatsoever, that's probably a much better condition for you to make memories than under extreme stress and physical exhaustion. And can you go further in that spectrum? And if you think about the hormones that are typically released in somebody's body, typically people have elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline. Whether they know it or not, they're in a constant state of fight or flight with those hormones. And in a state that I'm typically in on most days, I have decreased cortisol and decreased adrenaline compared to what I used to have. And I probably have increased oxytocin, the hormone of love, maybe increased melatonin, right, from your pineal gland. I probably have increased IGF-1, insulin growth factor 1, and GH, growth hormone. Studies have shown that people who meditate have elevated levels of these hormones that are critical for your body to heal itself. And if somebody wanted to set forth the theory that if a person has elevated levels of these hormones and decreased levels of cortisol and adrenaline, that is a better state for your brain to function and for you to think more clearly and form new long-term memories than somebody with elevated cortisol and adrenaline and decrease all these other hormones. Like, that's not an unreasonable thesis right there. And I think it's entirely possible that some of these hormones that we're releasing by doing this meditation and the hormones that we're suppressing, that it is just creating a more optimal condition for our brain to function properly and more clearly. And anecdotally, that is what my experience has been. I feel smarter. As weird as that sounds, I feel smarter. My ability to remember things is increased. My awareness of my surroundings increased. My vocabulary has significantly increased by me putting the time and doing this work. This is a very real effect that I've seen in my life by doing an hour of meditation every single day for the past 9 months. So the next big change I've seen in myself is my emotional control. And specifically, one big realization that I've had in the last 9 months is that I can feel any emotion that I want at any time, literally on cue. I've never thought about this before, never had this realization, but if I want to feel an immense overpowering sense of love, I can do that. You can too. There's a couple hacks to doing that. One is you can envision something, you can envision a scenario of your spouse or your child, and you can start feeling that emotion of love. I've also noticed if I just say the word love, or relaxation, or peace, any of these words, you can induce those feelings into you. And one trick that I've been trying to develop, or one skill I've been trying to develop, is can I feel those emotions on cue without visualizing a scenario in my head or without saying the word. And I've actually been doing this during my meditations. I'll enter into a deep meditation and then I try just feeling the emotion of love. And I can do it on cue like that. And this is really, really powerful, because if you can feel those emotions and cue them up like that, it means that you should be able to turn off emotions as well. You start feeling anxiety, you should be able to develop the skill to turn that off, or fear, or anger, or jealousy, or greed, any of these emotions you don't really want. You know, I think that you should be able to develop the ability to turn those off. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still working on that ability. And I'm still kind of figuring this stuff out myself, but my ability to control my feelings has greatly increased. And there are many feelings that I can just cue up like that and instantly feel happy, excited, any emotion that I want, just like this. And this is relevant because every emotion releases a different profile of hormones throughout your body, right? The emotion of anger is probably some testosterone, cortisol, and adrenaline, some combination of all those levels. You know, if you're feeling horny, that's a whole different cocktail of hormones. If you're feeling greed, that's a different cocktail. If you're feeling excited, that's some serotonin and some dopamine. You know, if you're feeling in love, that's again some dopamine and some oxytocin. Maybe you're feeling relaxed, that's some melatonin. Every emotion has a different cocktail of hormones that it releases into your body, right? You are your own pharmacist. And you start going down this path and you realize, like, okay, so if I can release any hormone into my body that I want, are there advantages to releasing some hormones over other hormones? And yes, there absolutely are. Many of these positive emotions, or the hormones associated with them, are beneficial and helpful to you. I really look at your hormonal profile as a spectrum. On one end, your body is in a state of fight or flight. So this is going to be cortisol and adrenaline, very high levels, fight or flight. The other end of the spectrum is going to be recovery and digestion. So cortisol is actually the anti-digestion, right? It literally turns off the salivary glands. It literally pulls blood away from your digestive system and pumps it into your muscles so that you can fight or flight. The opposite end of this spectrum is a state of recovery and digestion. And your emotions triggers the hormones and determine where you are on the spectrum. And if you want to be more on this side where you feel safe and secure and your body can start allocating resources towards digesting your food and repairing and recovering yourself, you can feel emotions associated with that state of mind. This is a big realization that I had, and I think that feelings of love and excitement and happiness, I think a lot of these positive emotions are, the hormones associated with them are more on this side that trigger this state of recovery and digestion. That's my theory so far, and I think it's working out pretty well. And so my ability to be aware of my thoughts has helped me develop this ability to feel just about any emotion that I want on cue like that, and turn off just about any emotion that I want on cue like that. This is feeling like a very real thing. I do want to state, like, you know, I still get a little anxiety, and sometimes I try to turn it off, and I can decrease it. I'm not quite all the way to where I can just instantly turn off anxiety and fear and stuff, but I think I've made a lot of improvements in that ability. That is a completely different skill set, I would say. The ability to turn emotions on and off, that is another skill set, and I'm making progress on that. I am absolutely making progress on that. And this is a very real change and effect that I've seen in myself and I've seen in my life over the last 9 months. The next change that I've seen in my life is my ability to handle stress has significantly increased in my life. You know, I talked in another video about in January of this year, I had my grandmother and my uncle both passed away 5 days apart. And both of them had separate types of cancers. They both lived together, and they both wanted to die at home inside their own home. So my mother and I went up there and we helped both of them and took care of both of them in their last final days so that they can both die inside the same home. That was a very stressful situation, right? I could feel myself kind of pushing myself to my stress limits. A lot of frantic calling doctors, running back and forth, calling hospice, and then everything. It was super stressful. And I remember thinking, like, man, I'm kind of handling this okay. Like, I remember it was a stressful situation, but I wasn't overwhelmed with that stress. My ability to handle that stress in that situation, I just felt in more control. And I've seen this in other aspects of my life as well. When I have all these different things coming at me, a lot of stuff going on in my life, my ability to kind of parse things out and just stay relaxed and be in control and be aware of everything, it feels more effective. I feel like I can handle stress much more effectively now than I could maybe last year. And I think one of the reasons for this is hormonal, right? It's cortisol and adrenaline, two primary stress hormones. And the average person has elevated cortisol and adrenaline all day long because they are thinking, largely because they're thinking negative thoughts all day long. Your thoughts can release those hormones into your body. It's not just your exterior environment that releases those hormones, it's your thoughts. If you hate watching politics on the news, you're releasing cortisol and adrenaline into your body. And by me doing my meditations every single day, I think when I'm in these deep states of meditations, I'm like, letting the air out of the balloon, right? I'm lowering cortisol, lowering adrenaline, so my base levels throughout the rest of the day are much, much lower. And so when I have stressful things coming in, I'm sure it increases my cortisol and adrenaline a little bit, the stress hormones, but I'm already starting off at a much lower base. If I was much higher levels of cortisol and adrenaline, I was already really stressed out, and then I had stressful things coming to my life, it would push me over the tipping point, right? I would get overwhelmed with that stuff and I wouldn't be able to handle it. I would feel just overwhelmed. But because my stress levels are kind of low by default, I have a lot more wiggle room to move in there. And this is something that I really noticed, especially that week last month where I had to deal with 2 deaths in the same week and help both of them die in their homes. I handled that much, much better than I think I would have 12 months prior, right, before I started doing all these meditations. The next change that I've seen in myself is that my awareness has expanded. Now this may sound a little confusing. What does that mean? Well, if you're in a state of fight or flight, right, you're full of adrenaline, this is a very real thing. You become hyperfocal, right? You are not aware of your surrounding. If you're in an emergency, you're really focused on one thing and you're not aware of what's going on in your peripheral vision or behind you or anything. And this is a very real thing. Most people are constantly in a state of fight or flight. And as you relax and let go, and once you're in a more calm position, you can just be more aware of your environment. And awareness is something that you need to become aware of when you're doing meditation. Typically, for most people, they spend their entire lives, their awareness is entirely on the 3-dimensional world. But once you close your eyes, you go into a state of meditation, your awareness is probably gonna be on your physical body. That's kind of the last thing in the 3-dimensional world that you lose track of. But your awareness is then gonna be on just your thoughts. And if you can shut out, or it's not so much what you put your awareness on, but what you take your awareness off of. So for meditation, the first skill set you need to learn is how to take your awareness off of the 3-dimensional world, off of your body, and then you're in a world of just thoughts. Then you need to take your awareness off of your thoughts. You need to silence your mind and push those thoughts away. And then you enter into a state where you are aware of nothing, and you are experiencing nothing, nowhere, no time, nobody, and just this complete nothingness. You are nothing but awareness. It's a very real state. It sounds crazy that you can enter a state where you are nothing but awareness. If you haven't experienced that, when I say that sentence, it may not make sense to you. You have to experience that. But it is a very real thing, and you, I think, are kind of training your awareness. Now when I'm in my 3-dimensional world, I feel like my awareness has expanded, right? I am more aware of my surroundings and what's going on in my peripheral vision and what's going on behind me, and I can hear things behind me, and I kind of create like a mental map of what's all around me. My awareness of my environment has greatly expanded by putting in the work and doing these meditations every day. So at the very start of my own spiritual journey, I actually got some blood work done, and then exactly 188 days later, after doing an hour meditation every single day, I went back and got some more blood work done. If you want to see what the changes are in my blood work, my physiological changes in my body were after doing 188 days of an hour meditation a day, check out this video I did right here going over the differences between those two blood works. And if you want to learn more about spirituality and mysticism and the effects of meditation on your physical body, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you over in the next video.